Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of the Lake Show Talks. I am your host, the RetroYuuki. The salary cap for this particular season is $109.4 million, or 109.40, as it say. The luxury tax this season is 132.62 cents. So if a team goes over the tax, the salary cap, you pay that much amount of money per dollar over. That's how I remember the rules. We also need to know about bird rights because bird rights actually apply for the Lakers here. And the bird rights was named after Larry Bird. The rule is you can sign players in your own team over the cap, okay? We also need to talk about the two exceptions the Lakers have this year, and that is the mid-level exception and the biannual exception. The, the mid-level exception is 9.3 million and the biannual exception is 3.6 million. And when we combine both exceptions together, we get 12.9 million. That's going to come into play when we talk about other stuff later on in the video. Now let's talk about, and by the way, the source for today's material is brought to you by Silver Screen and Roll. They're my favorite source on this particular YouTube channel. So yeah, they're my favorite. So let's talk first about the committed salaries. Okay, so LeBron, Green, Kuzma, Caruso, Heron, Horton, Tucker, and Quinn Cook. If you combine their contracts together, that's already $62.4 million. If they also mentioned if you put Avery Bradley and McGee, assuming that they stay with the Lakers, that's an additional $9.2 million for a total of $71.6 million. Okay? Then we have the big guy, Anthony Davis. If we add his contract of $32.8 million, we're going to be at $104.4 million by then. All right? Then we have our assets. We have the pick for this year for the draft, which is in 9 days. The pick is number 28, and that is worth $2 million because, of course, that's an automatic minimum salary for a player from the draft. You add that to play, that's $106.4 million. Then we have the unfortunate one, Luau Deng. Remember him? Yes, we still have to pay him because of his contract deal, okay? That's another $5 million added to that for a grand total of $111.3 million. But we're not done yet. Excuse me, $111.4 million, I should say. But we are not done yet. We have another player we need to address, and that is KCP. KCP and 2 1-year contracts, by the way. So KCP, according to Silver Screen and Roll, is expected to opt out of his contract, which is worth $8.5 million. Now, if he wants to sign again, he wants more money than offered from the contract. Now, the projected, if according to Silver Screen and Roll, if he signs again, he might want 15 million. But for example, in the example that they give in the article, it's 12 million for math purposes. So with that being added, assuming that the contract is going to be worth 12 million, we add that's $123.3 million. So right away, over the salary cap. But oh no, we're not done yet, folks. Because we still have to add 2 1-year contracts, and that is going to be at least $126.6 million. And we are way over the cap at this point. Now, the article goes into the cap exception, which is the mid-level and the biannual. So let's take a look at those right now. The mid-level exception, for a quick review, is $9.3 million. The biannual exception is $3.6 million. And when added together, that is $12.9 million. Now, what do these allow you to do? These allow you to use $12.9 million to sign players or use them with your own team. Now, if we combine the $12 million with our current total, we will be at $139.4 million, officially over the cap and salary tax, if you will. We're going to get taxed for sure. So let's talk about that $139.4 million when we break it down to other players. So because of $139.4 million, we cannot use the mid-level exception because we are over. And even if we take out the biannual exception from the rule, we're still going to be at 135.8 million. And even if we remove Quinn Cook, let's just say that the article goes into the fact that let's say they decide to remove Quinn Cook from the game, from the team, it's still not going to be enough to go under. And remember, by rule, you cannot combine the exceptions for one particular player. You cannot, like mid-level and biannual, you cannot put it on one player. You have to use it for both. That's the rules of NBA. And let's talk about KCP again. KCP, let's say they convince KCP to stay with the current contract. If they don't, they cannot use the full mid-level exception because of that. All right? So that's a lot of money. $139.4 million. Now, they do, however, the article goes into some free agent bargain hunting. So that is where we're going to start playing the game of bargain hunting with free agents. And get ready for a few videos on that in a few weeks. Within the next couple of weeks here. So they do go into some of the free agents we talked about in the few recent videos, including Gallinari and Serge Ibaka. Oh yeah, Gallinari might not even go for less than $9 million. And Ibaka might go for upwards of $20 million. Knowing how good he is, $20 million. Makes sense. But remember, we are way over the cap right now. I'll explain how many we are over the cap in just a moment. They also go into the mid-level exception level contracts we can go for. And there are 5 players on this list. It's Tristan Thompson, which was a rumor a few days ago. I might break one of those down in a few days. Nerlens Noel, Aaron Byness, DJ Augustin, and Mo Harkless, whose actual name is Maurice Harkless. We'll talk about that in just a moment with their contracts. And they're even thinking of an idea. The article goes into idea of a mid-level exception split. By that means split the mid-level exception with 3 players. Now remember, by rule, you cannot split it on the same player, but doing it on different players is okay. Their mid-level exception split by the article says Dwight Howard, Rondo, or Morris. Those 3. Here's the thing though. The article might even suggest that only 2 of those 3 can come back with the Lakers should they use the mid-level exception split area. That's going to be something to watch. I can guarantee that that's something to watch for the next couple of days as we get ready for the draft and the free agency period to begin on November 20th. Now let's talk about those 5 players I just mentioned. We're going to start first with Tristan Thompson. I looked at their contracts just to make sure they're correct. And what I have is what I saw on Basketball Reference. So how much over are we cap though? I also did some math. So if we are over the cap, we are over the cap by 30 million. That's a lot. And we are over the luxury tax by 6.78 million. So should we have to pay up? That's the way we have to pay up. Right? Now Tristan Thompson from Cleveland Cavaliers is worth 5 years and 82 million, which comes up to roughly $16.4 million a year. Nerlens Noel from Oklahoma City Thunder is a minimum contract of $2 million. Aaron Baines from the Phoenix Suns is going to be 2 years for $10.64 million, which is equivalent to $5.32 million per year. DJ Augustine from the Orlando Magic is 4 years for $29 million and $8.825 million per year. And Mo Harkless from the New York Knicks is 4 years for $40 million or $10 million per year. I was going to say $10. So, with that said, it's going to be rough for the Lakers to grab one of these players if they're going to go. They're trying to be under the cap or trying to be just over. They're already over the cap by 30 million, and they already jumped the salary cap, the salary tax. Okay, and remember, 4 teams are in the tax right now: Boston Celtics, Golden State Warriors, Philadelphia 76ers, and the last one is the Brooklyn Nets. Okay, so let's review our findings so far as our RetroYuuki's take for today. So the players overall are worth 126.60 million with assets. The mid-level and biannual exception combined is 12.9 million. That's a total of $139.4 million by rule. We are over the cap by 30 million, and we are over the tax by 6.78. Removing Cook will not put us under the cap because his contract is worth less than $5 million. The Lakers might have to remove Dwight Howard, Rondo, or Morris, depending on how they use mid-level exception. And that actually, by rule and by what we're looking at with the numbers here, it looks like the Lakers have less flexibility this year when it comes to moving players. So now, I ask you all, as fans of the Lakers, and probably fans and subscribers of this channel, where do you guys think the Lakers would go after this? Because they are over the cap by 30 million, and they have to pay the salary tax if they go over the cap. So I want to know in the comments below, what do you think the Lakers are going to do with their players this particular offseason? Let's not think about like, oh, we're going to sign free agents yet. Let's think about the cap first, because the cap will lead to 2 weeks from now when the draft comes and when free agency actually begins with the signing stuff. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. And don't forget, we are going live on Friday with a recap of what we learned this week. And I'm going to be revisiting this one again, this cap situation. So check out these 2 videos right here, to the right, for more Lakers content. And make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you guys in our next breakdown tomorrow.